Story 1. In a grievance meeting, HR. I have been doing this for 22 years. Union. It continues to astonish me how little you have learned in that time. Story 2. My son was playing online gorilla tag. He's 9 and happened to be in a lobby with slightly older kids talking trash. He said, "Oh yeah, well you're a dirty Pop-Tart." I broke out laughing before telling him to take a break and try not to play with older kids because they can be unkind. Story 3. As confused as a situation in a wicker chair. When I had to interact with people all day, I would occasionally receive an insult. I would always smile and say in an upbeat voice, "See, we do have something in common." I got them every time. Story 4. When my cousin was annoyed with her friend, she burst out and told her, "You're the human version of a typo." Story 5. My grandma said about an employee of hers, "I wish I could buy him for what he is worth and sell him for what he thinks he is worth." Story 6. You're about as useful as a screen door on a submarine. It always makes me chuckle thinking about it. Story 7. Actually, I came up with calling people a penis wrinkle when I was in high school. 15 years later, it still has the same effect. Pure bewilderment on the face of whoever I call a penis wrinkle. Story 8. I am terrible at math, so my kids started calling me the Countess, like in Sesame Street. Whenever I attempt math, they invoke the Countess to convey that my math is not to be trusted. Still makes me laugh. Story 9. The teacher told a girl who was bullying my friend, "Don't be mean to him. He might be your boss one day." I kid you not, my friend replied, "No, thanks. I don't intend on becoming a pimp." The class erupted into laughter, and he got off scot-free because the principal found it hilarious. Story 10. Telling someone to go take a flying leap at a rolling donut makes me giggle every time I think about it. Story 11. Today in DeLand, Florida, I saw two disheveled-looking men arguing. One of them said, "You drive a lifted Equinox." I turned to look and saw it was indeed a Chevrolet Equinox from around 2008, sitting on at least 24-inch rims. I laughed until tears ran down my face. Story 12. You act like you are the smartest person in the room, but I have serious doubts about whether you are truly the smartest person in that chair. Story 13. We had a sophisticated legal system while you were drawing on cave walls. An Italian argued with an American. Story 14. Calvin Timo, your simian appearance suggests a family tree rich in species diversity. Bill Watterson, bless you. Story 15. Many years ago, when I was at university, I attended a party that eventually evolved into a large poker game. At one point, a guy I didn't really know lost all his chips and, in a drunken, comical way, said, "I hate you all, for reasons lost to time." I replied, "What an incredible coincidence." Story 16. Someone once said I had a flat chest, and I replied, "Compared to yours, mine are non-existent." Story 17. Someone called me beige once. I really wanted to be offended, but I couldn't overlook the accuracy of his statement. It still bothers me to this day. Story 18. Your IT team has many ways to refer to someone as unwise. My favorite has always been Layer 8 network issue. The open systems interconnection model has 7 layers. Guess where Layer 8 is? Story 19. I think British insults are quite humorous. Some of my personal favorites include terms like knob, twat, plonker, muppet, melt, and wanker. You can even get creative with variations like twatface and knobhead, especially when you really dislike someone. Story 20. My usual ones are, "You're not pretty enough to be that foolish." "I envy everyone who has never met you. You have that vacant stare." Story 21. My favorite online reviewer said the most creative insult he ever received was, "I hope you get run over by a truck filled with cancer." Story 22. My hair started going gray in my 20s. My dad is in his 70s now, and his hair is still dark, but it is receding. During a visit, he decided to tease me about it, so I responded, "At least my forehead doesn't start here," while placing my hand on the top of my head. Story 23. I get constant headaches and migraines. Me, ugh, I feel a headache coming on. Girlfriend, yeah, I would have a headache too if I were you with that big head of yours. Story 24. My grandma got really mad at someone and called them a dirty sock. 8-year-old me thought it was the funniest thing ever. Story 25. When is he going to be held to a higher standard? I am not saying she is promiscuous, but she has had more partners than a game of hungry hippos. She looks like she came from a donation pile. Story 26. That's the odd thing. I was so tired when it happened that I don't remember what I said, but everyone else talks about how hard I roasted someone 3 years ago. Story 27. When someone calls themselves stupid, I say, hey, don't be so hard on yourself. You're not ugly. Story 28. Stop acting overweight, a guy said to a girl in high school. The entire class fell silent, unable to believe he had said that to her. Story 29. When I was a teenager, I will never forget my boyfriend's sister asking me why I was with him when he had the personality of a shoelace. She wasn't wrong. Story 30. Once my husband told me that my intimate parts are undesirable and our intimacy is average. I politely disagree. We will be divorcing coincidentally on May 5th. Story 31. Classic from SpongeBob. You just blow in from Stupid Town? And my personal favorite. Someone ought to put you in a box floating down the river. Grandma. Story 32. I wish you were different. Story 33. I once told a man he was the poster child for Planned Parenthood. The poor man was so unaware he didn't understand the insult. Story 34. I love British insults. They dress someone down and obliterate their argument in front of everyone, ending by calling them a thumb. Story 35. On Red Dead Redemption 2, someone said, "You've got a small neck." So random that it's funny. Such an odd thing to insult someone about. The first time I heard it, I laughed so hard. Story 36. It's mind-boggling how you're blissfully unaware of your own thoughts. I've given up trying to free you from the situation you've created. Good luck. Story 37. You Muppet. Who is controlling your mouth? This refers to someone who is just a mouthpiece for someone or something else and not even good at it. Source: Drill Sergeant in Basic Combat Training. Story 38. Also, these quotes are from performance evaluations. Story 39. You overused microwave. My brother. Since then, we have said that to each other as an inside joke. Story 40. I had a friend call another friend a butt baby, meaning that he is such a unique person that he couldn't have been made normally. We are all between 20 and 26 years old, and we had a good laugh about it. Story 41. Years ago, my 8-year-old son and his friend were arguing. His friend said, "Yeah, well, your dad drives a minivan." It still cracks me up. Story 42. I don't think it's the funniest insult, but my coworker lost it when I yelled at my computer at work. You potato. Story 43. My coworker and I are both LGBTQ, and we often make jokes about each other being gay. One day, she came around the corner and scared me. The first thing I yelled was, "Why would you do that when you know I have homophobia?" Story 44. You're a festering polyp on the rear end of humanity. A friend in school once said this, and we all laughed. Story 45. Next time you see your mother, ask her why she never taught you any manners. Story 46. A political journalist said Australian prime ministers have the shelf life of yogurt and as much culture. Story 47. I once told them that they reminded me of Donald Trump. Then, I sincerely apologized and admitted that it was a terrible thing to say. Story 48. I used to use it with someone I was close to as a joke when they playfully made fun of me. Story 49. I heard this one in my youth. One guy was mocking another's male pattern baldness. His response was, "That's from making turns under the covers." The first guy replied, "The only thing you know about turns is when your wife says, 'You turn over and go to sleep.'" Story 50. Your hair looks like what I pull out of my shower drain. If people were paper, we would draw art on most and wipe our hands with you. For older individuals, please don't stand too close. If I sneeze, you might be in trouble. If the person is about to leave, please stay for 5 more minutes. I want to have something to look forward to. Story 51. I lost a game on Call of Duty, and a guy kept shouting, "You lost." I told him the only thing I lost was my virginity to his mom. Story 52. You're not worth the energy to swear at. Story 53. If I am insulting a guy, I refer to him as her or she when talking to my friends in front of him. This usually drives the macho guy into overload. Alternatively, I call him ma'am. They hate it. Story 54. Said by a tall, thin Northern European man with a decorated dreadlock mohawk and thick black eyeliner, who is exuding intense anger. Your mother has a washing machine. The image of this scrawny vegan man from Austria, dressed like a homeless techno-Viking, yelling and shaking his fists in the air, was striking. The words he uttered were innocuous, but the delivery was chilling. Story 55. A long time ago, I had a boyfriend who was not very bright and quite uneducated. One time he made me angry, and for a week, I called him a eunuch to his face, but he had no idea what I was saying. Story 56. If it weren't for millimeters, you would be a girl. You thought it was hair until you discovered it was something else. Story 57. To be on your level, I would have to lower myself significantly. This is the issue with thinking you are debating someone intelligent. Do you know when I will value your opinion? When I actually care. Does your mother know that you are this uninformed? There is no need to showcase your lack of knowledge. Keep going, your nonsense amuses me. What are you doing? Setting a trap for those who meddle. Story 58. If you placed your brain on the edge of a razor blade, it would look like a ball bearing rolling down a 4-lane highway. Story 59. The funniest moment involved a coworker who told another coworker that he was the human equivalent of the chair he was sitting on, describing it as unpleasant. Story 60. Looney Tunes. When Bugs Bunny warns Hansel and Gretel about the witch, they run away but first stop to tell the witch, "Your mother rides a vacuum cleaner." Story 61. My niece's son told my friend, "I was going to make eye contact with you, but I decided to look at a dog droppings instead." Story 62. One time I was in class, and there was a student who was running to class. He always slept during lessons. The teacher, an older man, saw him running and said, "There's no need to run. You're just going to sleep later. So why bother?" Story 63. I was at a house party, and this guy was telling me he was following a diet he called the refugee diet. I asked if he was doing it to raise awareness, and he said no. He saw what others were eating and thought it would be a good way to lose weight. We ordered food, but I couldn't finish it all. So I offered it to everyone but pointed at him and said, "Don't worry, I won't offer it to you." As I walked around offering the food, he started following me. "Give it to me, give it to me. I'm a refugee, I'm a refugee, I'm a refugee," he insisted. I turned to him and said loudly, "You're not a third world refugee, you're a first world jerk." We haven't really spoken since, and I'm glad it's that way. Story 64. Name. You're here all the time. Is this like a wish fulfillment thing or something? Story 65. A former coworker was quite slow-witted and took a long time to process and respond to dialogue. We called him Windows 95. Story 66. Move quickly before I kick you. I said that about 35 years ago, and I will forever claim it as mine. I said it to my best friend when we were around 10 years old. Now I am 45. Story 67. It wasn't exactly an insult, but there was this one guy who would always try to one-up you. One of my friends was going on holiday to Malta, and this guy started talking about how he had been to all these amazing places, even though we all knew he hadn't. Someone said, "If you have Down syndrome, this guy has up syndrome." It absolutely made me laugh. Story 68. I hope your nose turns upside down so you drown when it rains. I hope you die in an unusual golfing accident involving a yacht and a fainting goat. Story 69. They have 2 brain cells fighting for third. I used this when I was watching 4 mechanics trying to remove a truck's tailgate. It is very easy to do, but the fact that 4 of them couldn't manage it and my friend, who was the assistant manager, had to go out and do it for them was frustrating. I have used this insult frequently since then. Story 70. All of us trying to lose weight, but you are the only one finding it, as heard in the kitchen where I work. I had to take a moment of silence for that boy. Story 71. A heavyset man once told me, "Kiss my ass," and I replied, "I don't have all month." I have to say, I was pretty proud of that one. Story 72. She's so unattractive. I wouldn't want to be with her even if someone else was involved. Story 73. I called someone a stupid frogfish. The entire concept came from the idea that frogs only see things from their perspective. However, I couldn't just say, "You are a frog," because he would think it was related to his appearance, which was never the case. A better choice of words would have been frog perspective. This made me think that maybe it's not even true. I am not great at biology, so I wasn't sure about frog perspectives. Moreover, since English is not my first language, it was difficult to find the right words for the insult. I was absolutely fuming. It's rare for me to get angry, and I usually don't insult people. However, after what he did, I felt like I was going to explode. A few days later, I felt terrible for insulting him, even though he deserved it, because that's not the kind of person I am. I would like to think that I am better than that. Story 74. While walking in public, I saw some kids around 10 years old arguing. One of them said, "Why are you so fat?" The other kid replied, "I'm fat because every time I see your mom, I get a cookie." Story 75. I got to use this one on someone after I saw it used on someone else. A kid walked up to me randomly and demanded I take my glasses off. I did, confused, and he stated, "Yup, you look better without your glasses on." So I said, "Yeah? Well, you look better without my glasses on too." I was so proud of myself. Story 76. You have taken in so many children that everything that comes out of your mouth seems childish. Story 77. Responding to a comment from Nancy Astor, who said to Winston Churchill, "If I were married to you, I would put poison in your coffee." Mr. Churchill replied, "If I were married to you, I would drink it." In response to being called gay, someone said, "I am straighter than the pole your mother dances on." Story 78. You have two brain cells. One's gone missing, and the other is gone looking for him. Story 79. A friend of mine came up with a good one in high school. We were waiting outside our classroom to go in when he glanced in the direction of a girl in another class. She asked, "What are you looking at?" And without missing a beat, he replied, "I don't know. I left my science dictionary at home." Over 33 years later, I still remember that moment. Story 80. When I was in 7th grade, I told my friend about a 6th grader who was being mean to me, and he said, "6th grader? More like potato." Story 81. I do not have the time or the resources to explain this to you in a way you would understand. Story 82. His arms were too weak to strangle prostitutes, so he went into politics. I found it amusing when I read it in a comment about an American politician, Stephen Miller. Story 83. If she were a spice, she would be flour. Story 84. A fellow coworker once told me, "If Niki Lauda dies, you're going to be the ugliest person in Austria." Well, it's been almost 6 years now. Story 85. I read on Reddit recently that I know 4 overweight people, and you're 3 of them, which still makes me laugh every time I think of it. Story 86. I am going to beat you so badly that your sister will wish she never gave birth to you. Thank you, Nick, from Left 4 Dead 2. Story 87. A coworker tries to make fun of the boss, saying he looks like some albino character from a movie no one has seen. The boss responds, "You know who you remind me of? Have you ever seen the movie What's Eating Gilbert Grape?" Everyone instantly burst into laughter. Story 88. Back when the New England Patriots were struggling, an announcer summed up their losing effort by saying, "They were outplayed and outclassed in every measurable dimension." It was succinct, polite, and utterly devastating. Story 89. One time I got really drunk at a party when I was about 20 and yelled at the girl who was dating a guy I liked. I hope you enjoyed the experience when you were with him. Story 90. A girl called me fat and said, "Ma'am, Can you remove this fatty out of here? In response, I replied, then why are you here? Story 91. You know what you'll find if you look up the word idiot in a dictionary? A picture of me? No, the definition of the word idiot, which you truly are. Story 92. Phil Hendry Show. Lloyd. Sir, I've got Hodgkin's. Phil. Oh, I didn't mean to make fun. Lloyd. Yes, you did. You wanted to make fun of me. I've got Hodgkin's disease and you made fun of me. Boy, are you going to cook. Woohoo. You know, it's almost worth it to me to go out and commit spree killing so that when I die, I can go to hell and watch the devil roast you. Story 93. This guy I knew was boasting about knowing more about economics than anyone else at the table at a social gathering. I told him that he was a middle-aged, minimum-wage office worker who lived in his parents' basement. It was completely true. Story 94. I heard my friend insult someone, saying, I'll put my hands inside you and clap. You will die in pain. Story 95. If you're going to be two-faced, you better make sure one of them is attractive. You're a little too unattractive to be so judgmental. Story 96. I heard a colleague from Newfoundland tell one of the younger guys, you have a head like the head of my male anatomy, full of flesh and lacking intelligence. I laughed about it for days. Story 97. Your sense of direction is so poor that you couldn't even find yourself in a mirror. You break mirrors. Story 98. You look like the creepy summer camp counselor who would give awkward massages because you're too afraid to actually harm the kids. Story 99. My son was playing FIFA with his friends online, and it was getting intense. I overheard one of them say, yeah, well, your mom smells like Iggle Piggle's blanket. I couldn't help but laugh. Story 100. A girlfriend and her ex were arguing. He was taking petty shots at her, so she simply laughed and said, you don't have the hairline to speak to me like that. He didn't think it was funny. Story 101. Someone at my husband's former workplace said, the insult, who's this clown, is the best because it indicates he is a clown while assuming that he is not even good enough to be recognized for his work. Story 102. More of a retort than an insult, but here it goes. During COVID, a friend and I were walking down the street wearing masks. A man without a mask approached me with a smug grin and asked, hey, are you a doctor? Because I have this funky-looking fungus on my penis that I want you to look at. Without missing a beat, I replied, yeah, actually, I'm an amputation specialist. Let me go get my snips, and I'll sort that out for you. I have never seen a smug grin disappear so fast. He just turned and walked away while my friend and I laughed. Story 103. My friend said he hated my guts, and I asked if it was because he could never reach them. That's just gold. Story 104. I always love the best part of you. It ran down the crack and left a stain on the mattress. Thank you. Story 105. My high school newspaper team and I were out selling advertisements to get our publication printed. I was walking out of a store when an older man approached me. He proceeded to ask, when's the funeral? We recently had a well-liked substitute teacher pass away, so I thought he was referring to that. I stopped chewing my gum to hear him better and got closer for better communication. I said, funeral? I don't know when the funeral is, but the wake is on Thursday. He started laughing and replied, no, baby, for that gum you're killing. I was mortified. In the middle of a small town in Alabama, he had trolled me well. Now, I use this on the nursing students I work with when they chew gum during simulations when it's not allowed. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.